Jack Johnson was a big inspiration because of what he did out of the ring. He was so bold. Jack Johnson was a black man back when white people lynched Negroes on weekends, every weekend, back in 1909. You wouldn't. They would send him letters saying, "You fighting a white man and nigger. If you knock him out, we'll kill you." He said, "Just kill my black buggers. I'm gonna knock this white man cold." And he would knock the white man out, and he was bad back in 1909. Man, I know I'm bad, but he was crazy.
That's where Ali got his courage from. He watched Jack Johnson documentaries. He said, "I'm nothing compared to Jack Johnson." Listen. In 1908, you got lynched for looking at white women, reckless eyeballing. He married 3 of them.
Wow.
I don't put myself in the league of Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson's fighting in the ring, and there's 75,000 people saying, "I might kill you if you hurt him." You know, this is what they're saying. This is what they're saying in the
while he's trying to
he's
fight.
Fighting, and know what he's doing? Oh, and he's beating the guy, boom, boom, boom. Oh, he's so beautiful. I'm gonna send him to you real nice. Boom, boom. And he's talking to the guy's wife, "How you doing, Miss Jeffries?" And then boom, 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 beats the guy there. And if you ever watch him fight, he's looking in the crowd, he's always smiling because they're cursing at him like a dog. You're such a tough guy.
There was a man who made the greatest heavyweight champions in history look like amateurs. Jack Johnson. Born in Galveston, Texas in 1878, 6 feet tall, a reach of 74 inches, a professional career spanning 34 years, the first black man to hold the heavyweight championship of the world. But none of those numbers explain why even Mike Tyson refused to place himself in the same category as Johnson. Tyson once said, "I would never put myself in the same class as Jack Johnson." Imagine him fighting while 75,000 people are screaming, "I will kill you if you hurt that white man." And he still smiled and humiliated them. That is courage on another planet. So what exactly made Jack Johnson that terrifying? On October 16, 1909, Jack Johnson stepped into the ring in Colma, California, to face Stanley Ketchel, the middleweight champion of the world. Ketchel was known as the Michigan Assassin, a fighter with a knockout punch so devastating it had destroyed every man who stood in front of him. He weighed nearly 20 pounds less than Johnson. None of that mattered to him. What made this night different was what happened before the first bell. Johnson and Ketchel were friends outside the ring. They had quietly agreed to extend the fight to 20 rounds, giving the audience a full show and maximizing the profit from the film rights. It was a gentleman's agreement between 2 professionals. Then came the 12th round. Ketchel saw an opening. He made a decision. He loaded up a right hand and threw it with everything he had directly at Johnson's head. Johnson went down. The crowd exploded. For one brief moment, the world believed the black champion had finally been toppled. That moment did not last. Johnson rose immediately. What happened next was not rage in the way most people understand rage. It was something colder, more deliberate. Johnson waited for Ketchel to rush forward, then threw a right uppercut with the full force of 210 pounds behind it. Ketchel was lifted off the canvas, spun in the air, and landed unconscious. But the most terrifying detail came after. As the referee counted over Ketchel's motionless body, Johnson stood calmly in his corner and removed 2 of Ketchel's front teeth that had been driven deep into the leather of his glove. He brushed them off the canvas like dust. Ketchel later told the Springfield Daily Leader, "If you think you know what pain is, stand in front of one of Jack Johnson's knockout punches and you will learn something new about how much a man can suffer." Johnson himself was direct. He betrayed me, and I made him pay for it. On July 4, 1910, in Reno, Nevada, the temperature reached 100 degrees Fahrenheit. 20,000 people packed into the arena. They had not come to watch a boxing match. They had come to watch Jack Johnson be destroyed. For years, white America had been searching for what the press openly called a great white hope. a white fighter who could take the heavyweight championship back from Johnson. They found their answer in James J. Jeffries, the former undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, who had retired 6 years earlier to run a farm. Jeffries was pulled out of retirement, fattened up on public expectation and racial pressure, and told that it was his duty to reclaim the title for his race. What followed over 15 rounds was not a boxing match. It was a public dissection. Johnson did not simply outbox Jeffries. He talked to him. Every time Jeffries threw a punch that missed, Johnson smiled and said, "You missed again, Jim." At one point, Johnson turned toward Jeffries' wife sitting in the front row and asked, "How do you think your husband is doing, Mrs. Jeffries?" He treated the man who was supposed to destroy him as nothing more than a prop in his own performance. Jeffries, a man who had never been knocked down in his entire career, hit the canvas 3 times in the 15th round. His corner climbed in to stop the fight and save him from further punishment. Afterward, Jeffries admitted what the whole arena had witnessed. "I could never have beaten Johnson in my best days. I could not even touch him." Johnson's own words after the fight were quiet but absolute. "I did not just want to win. I wanted to prove that your threats meant nothing against my strength." Muhammad Ali, reflecting on that night decades later, said, "Jack Johnson is the man who gave me the confidence to say, 'I am the greatest.' But when I look at what he went through, I realize I was still very small compared to him." Jack Johnson's fearlessness did not stop at the ropes. It followed him everywhere. Johnson loved speed and owned the most expensive automobiles of his era. On one occasion, a police officer pulled him over in a small town for driving well above the speed limit and issued him a $50 fine. Johnson reached into his pocket and handed over a $100 bill. When the officer said he had no change, Johnson looked at him calmly and said, "Keep it, because I will be coming back through here right now at the exact same speed." This was a different kind of terrifying. In an era when a black man could be killed for the wrong glance, Johnson used his wealth and his fame as weapons. He opened a nightclub called Café de Champion, filled with gold furnishings. He drove the finest cars on the road. He lived openly with white women at a time when doing so was considered an act of war against the established social order. The most frightening thing about Jack Johnson was not his fists. It was that he simply refused to bow. To understand why Jack Johnson feared nothing, you have to go back to where he started. As a young boy in Texas, Johnson was forced to participate in events called battle royales. 5 or 6 black boys would be blindfolded, pushed into a circle, and told to fight until only one remained standing. White spectators threw small coins onto the floor as a reward. A deliberate humiliation dressed up as entertainment. Johnson survived those circles. He won them. And in doing so, he absorbed a truth that no gymnasium could ever teach. The world was a hostile place, and the only way to exist in it was to be faster, smarter, and more ruthless than everyone who wanted to see you fall. Johnson himself later reflected on those early years. "I learned how to see a punch coming out of the darkness before it was ever thrown." Every opponent who later climbed into the ring with Jack Johnson was, without knowing it, stepping into that same circle. Except this time, Johnson could see perfectly. 34 years as a professional fighter. Only 3 genuine knockouts on his record across an entire career. Jack Dempsey, one of the most celebrated heavyweight champions in history, called Johnson the greatest defensive fighter who ever lived. Nat Fleischer, the founder of The Ring magazine, went further. "Jack Johnson was the most complete heavyweight I ever saw. He had the power of a giant and the cleverness of a magician." But statistics and quotes only tell part of the story. What made Jack Johnson truly terrifying was not his punch, not his defense, and not his endurance. It was that he remained completely and unapologetically himself in a world that was actively trying to destroy him. That is a kind of strength that no training camp can produce. What do you think about Jack Johnson? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel.